Hello, welcome back. In the last video we have made a blockchain and we have secured the blockchain with a proof of work. Today we are going to make a simple cryptocurrency, but to do the cryptocurrency we have to make the block containing many transactions. We have to make the block contains many transactions, to accept many transactions, and then adding something called rewards. After mining these transactions, we will put some rewards in the miner's address. Because this is a cryptocurrency, we have to put some coins on the system. The coins are called the rewards here. So first of all, we start with making our block accept more than one transaction. So we only change that name to list of transaction or transactions list. Okay, and then change that one transaction, the old transaction, to transaction, and then we have to remove the nonce value because we don't need it here, because it is increased every time when mining the block. There is no need to pass it to the block, so it's okay for now. But here we will not be able to use the entire transactions list in the calculate cash function. So we have to make only one value. We'll take the amount value, define the transactions right now. We will not use the entire transaction, so we have to change it, this value, and we will change it soon. So now we pass list of transactions, so we have to define a new class called transaction. And this transaction takes nothing, and define a constructor. The constructor accepts from address to address, because the transaction will be executed between two parties, two persons, from the wallet of the first person to the second person, and this address is the public key of the wallet, that has the wallet of the person. So from address and to address, they are public keys. Okay, and it accepts the amount that transferred, the amount that has been transferred, and that is the constructor. And we define internal properties of the transaction, the same name, no problem. From address, sorry, this is to address, equals to address. Okay, from address to address, and the last one is self dot amount equal amount. And that's it for the transaction. So we will pass a list of this transaction to the block. We will pass a list of this transaction to the block. Okay, if we pass a list of transactions, so we will not be able to print all the values here, or use the entire values in the hash calculation. So we just use only one property is called, we have to change this name to transaction list here, and we will take only the first transactions amount, the first transactions amount, transactions list, and we take the first transactions amount. Now it is good for this class, but we have to return back to create Genesis block, and we don't need the nonce value, and we have to add a list of transactions. We have to make a list of transactions. So because we have only one transaction, so we define the transactions from address none, because it is the first one and it is dump transaction, and the amount will be 0. And that's, we have added it just for making the first Genesis block. Okay, okay, so now why we need to make transactions list? Why don't we mine the transaction immediately? Because in Bitcoin they have a rule that every 10 minutes we mine transactions. We don't create a new block until or we don't create a new block for each single transaction. Instead, we wait for 10 minutes until we have many transactions in the transaction list, and we make a new block. So in the blockchain we have to make a property called pending blocks, pending transactions, and this is an empty array, pending transactions. And after the miner succeeded to mine the entire block, or to mine the block, we have to give him a reward. So we define reward value, we define mining reward, equal, for example, 100 Bitcoin. Okay, so we defined the list of pending transactions that is going to be mined, and the mining reward, which is the Bitcoin that will be assigned, or the winner or the miner will win this amount of coins. Okay, now we have to change the addition of the block here. We have to change it to mine new or mine pending transaction. Here, the addition of the block, we change it to mine pending transaction, and this function takes the mining reward address, because after mining, successful mining, we have to give the public key, or the wallet, or the address of the wallet we have to add the mining reward value to this wallet. Okay, so we take the public address of the wallet, or the public key of the wallet, to add it is the public key of the miner's wallet. So we have to take it to pass him the mining reward after successfully mining the transactions. So we create a new block of the block class, and we can take a timestamp of date time dot now, but because we didn't import it, we have to go there and import from date time, import date time. Okay, and we use the date time here as a timestamp, where date time and timestamp. Okay, we have here timestamp must be string, because it will not be accepted by the JSON. We have to convert it to string to be able to calculate the hash value for it. So here we return back to the mine pending transaction. We added the time stamp, and then we pass the pending transactions list, and we don't use the previous hash values. There is no problem here. We create that block, and the previous hash is calculated, because it will be the previous hash will be the previous block's hash value. Okay, then after we create the block, we created a block right now, and we need now to mine that block. We need to mine that block, and to mine it we have to pass the difficulty. Okay, if we succeed in mining the block, we have to print a message saying that mining block is mined, you got the reward, you got a reward, and we put the reward value here, the mining self dot mining reward. Okay, so we display to the screen that the block is mined successfully, and we tell the miners that they won the mining reward, which is 100. Here in our example we assigned it 100, so we take 100 coins. Okay, after mining the block, we have to add it to the blockchain. We have to add it to the blockchain, and then we have to reset the list of pending transactions. We have already mined the pending transaction list, so we have to reset it again. So we can do something like that: self dot pending transactions equal, okay, We can also add a reward to the miner. We can make the transaction here. We can make the transaction here immediately. Transaction here immediately. We can make the transaction here, and the money or the coin will be transferred from none, because it will be from the system itself, and the amount that is going to be transferred to address which is the mining reward address, the mining reward address, and to this is from address none, and the to address mining reward address, and the amount will be self dot mining reward, self dot mining reward. Okay, now we have finished the mining of the transactions. So in general, we create a new block, and after that we mine that block until we find the specific number of zeros, and then after we finish the mining process, we display a message, and then we append the block to we append the block to the blockchain, and then reset the pending transaction. After resetting it, we add a new transaction by transferring the amount of the mining reward to the winner, which is the miner that reached or successfully mined the block with the pending transaction. Okay. Now we have to create transaction. We make a method to help us make transactions from outside the blockchain. We call it create transaction. Create transaction, and it takes transaction. We have a transaction here. I think this word is not true. Transaction, like that. Okay, transaction. Okay. Self and transaction. Okay. And it takes that transaction, and we add the transaction to the pending transaction list, to the pending transactions list. Oh yes, it is a list, so we can make an append to append that transaction. Okay, it's not important to have the same name. You can just say T, and we know that it is of type transaction, no problem. Okay. Also, we have to make another function to get the balance. The balance in Bitcoin is different from balance in the banks and other institutions, financial institutions, because the balance is not changed from person to person. The transaction adds or subtract money from you. That's it. But if you want to know the balance, you have to pass on all the blockchain and find and sum up the entire balance. To know the entire balance of somebody, we have to check the entire blockchain. That's the idea. So there is no balance like that. There is no big balance, and then when you transfer money from your wallet to another party's wallet, so you reduce your reduce your balance and increases balance. This is not true in the blockchain. Instead, we pass on all the transactions one by one and sum up the balance. So we define another method called get balance, and we have to pass get balance. We have to pass the public key. We have to pass the public key is called address. Okay, the public key that the public key of the wallet. So we define a balance value to be start with 0, and we iterate in all the blocks in the blockchain, and also we iterate on all the transactions in the block of transactions list. And after that we check if the t.2 here is the logic. We talk about the logic. Some logic here is very important, because if we find a transaction contains your address but it is address 2 in the 2, so you get some money. But if your address is from, so you subtracted or you transferred some money to somebody else. So if it is 2, so you got money. It is from, if it is from, so you transfer money. It's very simple. So if t.to address equal the current address, then we add the amount to the balance. Okay, and if t dot from address equal the current address, so we subtract the amount from the balance, and then we return the resulting balance. Return balance, and that's it. We have finished our I know there is some errors that will arise here, but we can fix it. Don't worry, we can fix it very quickly, and it is good to see the errors so you know how to deal with it. No problem. Now we remove the code from previous tutorials, and we create new transactions. Create a transaction of transaction from address, any address. We call it address 1, and to address is address 2. Anyway, is okay, and the amount that is going to be transferred is 100. So we can copy this and make a transaction from address 2 to address 1, and the amount will be 50. Okay, and after that we can mine the transactions. So we display a message that we are starting mining. Okay, starting the mining process. So we make the mining process. We start it already. We started. by calling the mine pending transactions. Must be transactions. Okay, and we mine it to the place or the public key of the miners, which may be something like Osama address. Okay, sorry, and then we print the resulting balance. Miners, we can say Osama miner balance is, and then we print dot get balance, dot get balance. Okay, but we have to pass the address here. Okay, now we test our code. I know that maybe some errors will be there. Yes, here return block of transaction line 40. We go to line 40 and we see what's going on. I think we have added one here extra. Yeah, there is no need for it. Okay, what else? Transaction in line 40. Transaction. Okay, that's good to see the errors. Transaction is not defined in line 76. I know there is, we didn't check 76 here. The transaction action yes, we started right now to make the rewards, but if you see the Osama miner balance is 0, and that's true, no problem, because we, after the mining is succeeded, we add another transaction, so it will wait until the next 10 minutes. So if we want to see the balance, we can make another list or another transactions again to see another balance. For example, we can say, okay, so we can say from address 1 to address 2 we passed 200, and here we passed 150 again, and starting mining again, and we mine the address to the same, became another mining reward. So we can check right now if it is okay or not. Okay, yes, we have 100, but also I went another reward which is 100. I have 200 right now, but the transaction is in the waiting list, so after 10 minutes it will be added to my wallet. And that's it for this tutorial, and we have finished making a reward for the miners, and we see now that how the money transferred from one wallet to another using the public key address, and how we know the balance that we said there is no actual balance in the Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. Instead, we have to pass on all the blockchain, and we collect from the transactions from address to address, so we get the entire balance. And thank you for today, and See you next time.